Yes.
Hello and welcome. I'm Anna Hoy from Vacations by Anna, and I'm your host today for Anna's Travel Talk. So today we're going to be talking with Danielle Williams, and she is a custom home specialist with ADT. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit about how to keep your home safe while you're traveling. If you're somebody like me, when you get ready for your vacation, you pack, you think about getting your suitcase ready to go. You maybe talk to a neighbor about picking up your mail or watering your plants, but you're not always thinking about what is the best way that you can secure your home while you're away. So today, Danielle's going to share with us some tips and tricks and insight, I guess you could say, on all things home safety. So let's welcome Danielle Williams. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Anna. It's so great to be here with you today.
Thank you for joining me. Now, I know you've been at ADT for a number of years. Tell me a little bit about how long you've been with the company.
I've been with ADT for 4.5 years now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So 4.5 years. So I'm sure you've seen quite a few things in that time.
I have seen so many different situations in that time. And unfortunately, I've had to walk in on situations where somebody's already been burglarized. So it's given me some great insight into what you can do to prevent it from happening to you, how to take that target off your back.
Yes. And I'd love to hear more about that today. That's definitely something that's top of mind, especially in our current environment. And I, matter of fact, just came back from a weekend getaway, and I'm sure I did some of these things wrong. So I'd love for you to start off maybe with what are some of the common mistakes that we make while we're traveling, like little do's and don'ts.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you here so I can show you some slides that'll give you a little insight. Perfect. So I put together a little presentation for you so you can see some photos to kind of go along with the things that we're talking about. So let's start off with this lovely what is wrong picture. So we see a lot of common mistakes that people just don't even think about. And it's a big difference between this house and this house. And your burglar, when they're shopping the home that they're going to attack, is looking over the neighborhood and watching for what might be a good target and what might not be a good target. So going back to this one, let's talk about some of the things that we see commonly that are mistakes. You can see the boxes in the lower left-hand corner that are from big ticket items that are just sitting out there at the curb ready for pickup. Don't ever let people know that you've just purchased big ticket items. Collapse those boxes, destroy them, get them into your recycling bin, but don't leave them sitting out there on the curb.
Ooh, I wouldn't even have thought of that one.
Yeah, leaving newspapers in the driveway, mail or packages piling up on the front porch. Like you said, partner with a neighbor, have somebody pick up that mail and those packages. Having your garage door cracked open, that's a biggie. People driving away and forgetting to close their garage door or not checking to see if it finished closing before it hit an obstruction. Because with those automatic doors, they'll like stop on you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Leaving an upstairs window open. Or
I think that's a common one.
Oh, are you guilty of that one?
Yes, I think so. Not anymore.
Yeah. And that's especially important if that window is over what we call an accessible point, like a balcony or part of the roof line that can be used to climb on to get up to that second story. But as you can see in this photo, this homeowner not only, left us with the ability to get into a second story, they provided the ladder for us by leaving it on the outside of their home.
Oh my goodness. There it is. Yeah, I see the ladder.
One of my favorite arguments that I hear from clients when I'm doing their home walkthrough and assessment with them is, well, I have sheer drop on my windows. There's nothing underneath them. Nobody's going to come for those. And then when we walk around the outside of their house during their assessment, we see a ladder just laying there. And it's not bolted down. It's not in their garage. It's completely accessible for that burglar to be able to help themselves to get right on into the house.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I think if we walk around our house, now we'll be a little bit more clear, Daddy, of what I'm to look for in our own house before we go away on our vacation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, obviously you can do some quick fixes in order to help to prevent that target from happening. Things like increasing your lighting, making sure all of your windows and doors are closed and locked, putting an active yard sign in your yard from your alarm company, beware of dog signs on your gates or video monitoring signs, leaving a
Yeah,
vehicle.
that is a well-lit house right there.
That is a well-lit house. I mean, maybe a little too
Yeah.
well-lit. I don't know if I'd
Yeah,
want to
but it
live in
looks
broad
beautiful
daylight.
though.
Right? It does. It does look beautiful. But you'll
It
notice
does.
they also have like video surveillance, and we also have a car parked in the driveway. So it gives the illusion of somebody potentially being home.
Yeah, so I guess the goal there is to not make your house an easy target and kind of deter them from wanting to go to your house, because you make it look like an easy target with what you were showing in the previous picture with ladders and newspapers, and especially the windows and the garage doors open. I think that sometimes we just think if we lock the door, we turn the light on, maybe leave a car in the driveway, that, you know, we're safe, that the bad guys don't know that we're gone. But based on what you're telling me so far, they know a little bit more than we think they do. And they
They
look at
do.
it with different eyes than we look at it.
They do. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm going to show you this slide right here because that kind of leads right into this. Homes with an alarm system are 3 times more likely, or homes without alarm systems are 3 times more likely to be burglarized than those that have an active system in the house. That's one of those things the burglar's looking for when they're driving up and down your street. Do you have an alarm sign and your neighbor doesn't? Because then your neighbor might be the more attractive target. A lot of prevention when it comes to burglary is making yourself less desirable to that burglar and making them feel like they're at more of a risk to be caught in the act at your house than they are at your neighbor's house.
Or making your house more difficult target, so that, you know, I think I read somewhere in an article that they interviewed some burglars and they asked them what makes you pick one house versus the other. And they said, if this one looks like it's going to give me a hard time or be difficult, I go to that one. I go to the next one, the one that looks easy. So with that note, how can we be proactive to prevent burglars from targeting our house? You mentioned some of that things.
I did. You know, again, a lot of it has to do with creating that illusion of being the harder to get out of house. So we were talking about doing this as going on vacation, right? It may interest you to find out that the most common time for a burglar to strike is actually Friday at about noon, and that July is your peak month for burglaries. That all has to do with vacations. People commonly leave for their vacation on Friday morning and aren't going to be back at least until Sunday evening, if not Monday or the following week. So Friday is a great opportunity for them to do that break-in and maybe not be caught by the person coming by to check on the cat or to water the plants, right?
Oh.
And July, I'm sure you can attribute the fact that July is probably the largest travel month of the year,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, school's out, you know, family's ready to travel, or it's your vacation days are coming up and you're itching to get out. So yeah, I can definitely see. So this is actually the high peak month.
This
That
is the
does make
high
sense.
peak month. It
Yeah.
really is. And, you know, so this is where, you know, we go back to looking at what makes this picture the right picture. It's all about how difficult it's going to be for this burglar to get into this house and get back out of this house without being noticed. Video surveillance is going to catch their image, so that makes the house a little bit less attractive. The fact that there might be a dog in the backyard, and especially having an actual dog in the backyard, is a great deterrence. When they're shopping their targets, if they realize that there's a dog in the yard, and then the dog is not in the yard, that's a good clue that the dog is being boarded somewhere. Boarding dogs at kennels can often lead to a break-in because you're notifying everybody that works that kennel that you're going on vacation. So think strategically if you do have to board your pet. I obviously recommend that you try to hire a dog sitter to come in, or even a house sitter. That's always a really fantastic deterrent during a trip. But if you can't hire a dog sitter or a house sitter to come in to take care of the animal and they must be boarded, think about what you're saying when you drop off the dog. Don't tell them that you're going away for 2 weeks. Explain that you're having work done at the house, or don't say anything at all, that's going to give them the idea that the house is going to be sitting empty. One of my favorite excuses is our house sitter's allergic to dogs. So it makes it sound like there's somebody at the house and the dog needs to be boarded because there's somebody at the house.
I like it. That's a good one.
Yeah. So that's one of the great ways that you can be a little bit proactive in what you do. And also, you know, making sure that your fences and your gates are locked. If you have gates and fences that are easy to jump over, keep in mind, they're usually just going to jump the gate. They're not going to bother with the lock. So when you do lock gates, lock it so that from the inside, it's easy to unlock and get out. Don't create a deterrence to being able to escape your own home in the event of a fire or other emergency. Gotcha. Make sure you can still get out, but make it a little bit harder on the person trying to get in. Think about your keys. Who in your world have you given a spare key to or given access to a key that may have made a copy and now still have the ability to enter into your home? I'm a huge proponent of those automated deadbolts where you can just punch in a code for somebody and they can use the code to unlock the door, and you can delete that code when that relationship is over.
Oh, so similar to what they do in some Airbnbs out there, right? They have a code, so they don't have to worry about who's going to have the key once they check out. If they don't leave the key, there's going to be a lot of keys out there. So I've seen several Airbnbs that I'm familiar with that have those. So they just give somebody a password, they get in, they get out. They don't have to worry about keys floating around. So
that is so true.
So I wouldn't have thought of that for when I was going on vacation. So that's a really, really good one. So when they're targeting our house, what type of things are they looking to steal? You talked about the big ticket items in the boxes, you know, letting them know what you have. Obviously, from what I know, they want to look at your jewelry and your cash. But what else do they like to steal?
All right. Oh, whoa. I don't know what I just did there.
No problem.
Apparently we have subtitles starting. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Well, that was new. All right. So the most commonly stolen items. Well, the first thing a burglar does when they break in is they look for their way out. That's what they want first. How am I getting back out of this house?
Okay.
That is part of why corner houses are often hit more by burglars than houses that are in the middle of a street, because you have less neighbors that line up to your walls on a corner house. Oh. So, and it gives them 2 points of exit to 2 different streets. This is also why houses that are on an alley have a higher break-in rate than those that are not on an alley and that have a backyard backed up to theirs. Okay.
That makes total sense.
Right. So they're looking for their point of exit first. Once they've discovered that, they're beelining to your master bedroom, because that's where people tend to keep the items that they are most interested in. So those items include cash, computers, and small electronic devices like tablets and phones, jewelry, of course, like you said. They are also looking for watches. That's a big resale item, especially men's watches. They're looking in your medicine cabinets. They want your drugs.
Ooh.
Especially if you have any prescription painkillers. There's a big resale for that. But even like diabetic testing strips have a resale value. Guns. If they can get your gun, they just won. And also tools. Tools are a big, easy to resell item. They could have a garage sale and put all the tools out, and people will come and buy them, and no one will even question whether or not they're stolen.
Well, that's interesting to know. You know, you talked about the master bedroom, and that is what I've heard. That is where the safe is usually located, or, you know, the valuables are in the, you know, the master bedroom. And so that just tells me right there not to put stuff there. And it sounds like they go to your master bedroom, your bathroom, and your garage, and then maybe we'll pilfer everywhere else after that. But it looks like those are the top 3 places that they're going, right?
Those are, yes, a big chunk of the top 3 places. Another place they like to hit is an office, because that's where you have a tendency to either keep client confidential information that could lead to identity theft, or your own personal identity theft information. The ability to get your password book, if you keep a written password book that they could use to hack into your online life.
Yeah, or all your records are right there. They can get everything at your fingertips. Even if you lock your you think you're secure, like you lock it, but they know how to get into those things quicker than you and I would if we forgot our key, right? We wouldn't know how to get in there, but they would know how to get in there really quickly.
Yeah, and
So,
you know, you just hit on something very key that I meant to say, and I don't think I did, and that's when you're looking at your house, look at it through the eyes of a burglar. Before you make your plan on what you're going to do to secure your home, long before you go on vacation, just today, take a minute, walk around the outside of your house and think to yourself, if I locked myself out right now, how would I get in?
okay.
And then
That's
start
nice.
looking for what opportunities you have in front of you. A lot of that could be as simple as, oh, look, there's a planter and here's a glass sliding door. How easy is it to pick up that planter and throw it through the glass sliding door and then walk through the hole in the glass?
And then no one's going to hear you if you don't have neighbors close to you, like you said, if you're a corner house and maybe people aren't home at that time and you don't have a lot of neighbors around you, no one's going to hear it. If you don't have an alarm, it's not going to signal to anybody. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
A lot of things I definitely would not have thought about. Now, earlier I mentioned something about, talking to your neighbors before you went on vacation. So how best should we partner with our neighbors?
I'm so glad you asked. I even had a slide for that.
Oh, look at that.
So partnering with your neighbors is one of the things that I talk about a lot when I come and speak at neighborhood watch groups as a wonderful way to deter theft, not just in your own home, but in your entire neighborhood. Burglars really hate communication between neighbors. So the more active your neighborhood is in communicating with each other, the more neighborhood combined activities you have, the less likely they are to come to your neighborhood instead of someone else's.
Oh, so even as simple as if you have that sign that says neighborhood watch or crime watch, that might be a deterrent for somebody to come to your neighborhood.
Absolutely. And if they can look it up online, if you have a community page like a Bixby Knolls Community Association page, for example, then they know that there's an active association, that neighbors are meeting and are communicating with one another.
Oh.
They want to see that there's they'll look up on the Nextdoor app and see how many people are actually interacting from that neighborhood, or is it like one person posts every 15 days? Or are they seeing a lot of activity in that neighborhood app or the neighbors ring app, And those are good for you as a neighbor to be a part of as well. The neighborhood associations and the neighborhood watch groups, crime watch groups, they often have speakers like me who come in and give advice to you as a homeowner on what you can do to protect yourself and take the target off the neighborhood's back. Often police officers, fire department. So there's some great knowledge to be gotten by being part of one of those groups. And being connected through a neighborhood or a crime app can also help you see what the habits are that are happening in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't think I was even aware that there was a crime app. So that one is news to me. So I'm sure if it's news to me, it's probably news to somebody else who's watching.
Yeah, Spot Crime is one of the ones that we use on a regular basis at ADT. And then we also have the ADT So Secure app, which does give you the idea of what's going on in your neighborhood because it direct reports from police reporting right into the app. So you can see where the crime has happened and what type of crime happened there. But, start small. Even before doing all of these things, walk across the street and knock on your neighbor's door and introduce yourself if you've never met each other. Just say, hi, I'm new to the neighborhood, or I've been here for years and I'm learning about the crime in our neighborhood. So I found out one of the things we can best do to stop criminals is to start talking to each other. So I wanted to come introduce myself. Often you'll find that they're just too shy, so they never thought to introduce themselves to you.
Yeah, and in the neighborhood where I am, there's over 100 houses in my neighborhood. And I do have to say, I know somebody in every block, but I don't feel like I'm communicating as much as I probably could. So you're making me aware of some little steps that I can do to kind of help keep the neighborhood safe, and keeping my neighbors safe can also keep me safe. And that's something that maybe we don't even think about. We just worry about our house sometime, but honestly, if your next door neighbor gets robbed, just as easily your house could get robbed. So doing some preventative steps, like some of the things we're talking about today, can really set you up to not be the target for the burglars, right? And that's the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it's not incredibly uncommon to see a couple houses side by side get broken into if it's known that those people are gone at the same time of day.
Oh,
So
and
if
you're
you
right,
have,
they do watch and see what time that you're leaving. Like, oh, everybody goes to work or goes to
everyone goes to
school,
work.
so we know no one's home from this time to that time. And I thought it was interesting earlier you mentioned the peak time was, I think you said noon on Friday. And I would have thought nighttime, you know, a new person to safety, I would think the criminals are going to come at night. But from what you said, and from what I've read recently as well, is the crimes are happening during the day. So they're not
11 to 3.
necessarily happening in the evenings.
No, they're happening when people are at work, when parents are out picking up kids and dropping kids off at school or running them to their activities. So that's why 11 to 3 is the prime time for burglars on weekdays.
So to your point, not just for vacations, but for every day, we should follow these practices to make sure that we are not leaving, you know, ladders in our front yard. We're locking the gates, we're locking the upstairs window. So if they try to get in our house and it's a little difficult, maybe they'll skip our house, not go to our house. So anything we can do to not make us an easy target. And as you mentioned earlier, I think you said, get the bullseye off your back, right?
Get that bullseye off your back. Exactly.
Yeah, any way you can, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Now
you know,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Okay, I was going to say, one of the other things that you can do to start the ball rolling in your neighborhood is to start an annual block party. It can be a lot of fun. It's really easy. You start by putting together a flyer that says, I'm creating an annual block party. Let me know if you're interested in being part of one of the providers. Here's what we're looking to do. And then talk to a couple neighborhood businesses and see if they want to donate food, because sometimes they will. And if they want to, you know, do a little advertising and put up a booth that people can come and visit and learn more about their business that they have right there in the neighborhood.
That's a good point, because there's a lot of neighbors, new neighbors in my neighborhood. There's a lot of people in the past couple of years that have been moving out and new people moving in. In fact, next door and across the street, I have brand new neighbors this past year. So yeah, that's a good point, that, you know, there's a lot of people coming in that they maybe don't know what's going on in Cerritos or Downey or Long Beach or wherever you live, you know, that they don't know what's going on in the neighborhood, like where to go. Like, in fact, my neighbor next door knocked on my door and said, when's trash day? You know, simple thing like, I'm new to the neighborhood, I don't know when trash day is, or where's the, you know, best dry cleaners. And so talking to your neighbors is a really good way to find that out as well. So yeah.
It is. We used to stay in the same house for many, many, many years. Now we don't do that as a society. We change houses every 3 to 7 years. Wow. So we're constantly getting new neighbors instead of having the same neighbors for 30 years that you had a tight and close connection. So by having that block party every year, it keeps people in that neighborhood, because the more connection people have in the neighborhood, the more likely they are to stay in that neighborhood and not want to leave that house.
I can see that.
Yeah, so it creates that stronger bond. And, you know, if you don't have a neighbor to ask to pick up your mails and your packages, because like I always say, never stop mail at the post office. You are really broadcasting to everyone that you are not home if you stop that mail. Because one thing you will know is that every week, every neighborhood has a day when all the flyers come to your mailbox.
Yes.
Burglars watch the postman on that. And if the postman skips your house, your mail is being held at the post office. So it's not just the people you're notifying at the post office, it's the person watching your mailman walk down your street that you're notifying to.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
But so that does make total sense, because like in my neighborhood here, we get them on Thursdays, and you're right. Every house gets them. And if you see houses that are not receiving them, it is a big red flag that, hey, that person's, they're not home.
Skip that house.
Let's
go
see how easy it is to get in there. So
yeah. And there are some people who don't have neighbors that they can rely on, in which case there are many alarm companies and patrol services out there that offer what we call patrol service with Vacation Watch. We have that here in the LA market for ADT. And that means that one of our officers shows up once every shift, so approximately 3 times every 24 hours, to walk the premises and remove packages and mail and make sure they
Oh,
aren't seeing any signs of forced entry.
3 times. That's really good. And then if somebody's watching your house and they're seeing that, that's, they're like, they don't just have a sign. Somebody could come at any time. So they don't want to take the risk. So again, making it, taking that bullseye off your back there. So
Exactly.
earlier we saw that picture of the house with all the lights. And then I heard that burglars don't like floodlights.
Oh, they hate them. They hate a motion sensor floodlight. That's actually a really great item to have installed in your house if you don't have them already, especially in areas that are darker and more concealed. So when you're doing that perimeter walk, you're going to look for, like, on the sides of your house, can your neighbors see that part of your yard, or do the trees between your property completely block their windows from your windows? Because that'd be a great location for a floodlight.
Okay.
Yeah. So that leads to also kind of just being strategic in your exterior lighting, making sure that there aren't any dark spots that give someone the opportunity to hide behind something.
Yeah. And if it does, especially I was thinking in the front door, if it lights up the front door, it might deter them because the neighbors could see somebody trying to break in your front door. But your point was really valid, which is you got to think about all the way around your house too. Because if it lights up on the side, I'm thinking about my house and I'm like, the side of my house, I do have a light, but it's not a motion sensor. So I'm going to look into that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking I do have a neighbor next door. Can they see our neighborhood, my house? Yes. But are they going to be, watching your house? Not necessarily. So yeah, that's a good point. And so on your PowerPoint here, you have timer lights and home automated lighting. Is that where your lights in your house go on and off at specific times?
It is.
Okay.
So that's another thing that they're looking for. So like you were saying, well-lit porch, super important. In fact, one of the biggest ways that a burglar gets into your house is through your front door. And it's usually because you forgot to lock it. The other way that they're going to get in is all the way around the back and sides. So front door, they're going to try that. If it's locked, they may just go straight to the back side of your house and break in there. One of the things that can deter them from the street is seeing lighting come on inside the house or seeing lights that change within the house. So that gives you, there are devices you can buy, like a flicker light that you can plug in the room that you usually would watch a TV in, so that it creates that flicker, so that from the outside, it looks like somebody's in there watching TV.
Ah, I like it.
Yeah, you can also, go to Home Depot and buy those regular timer lights that you put lamps on and that you put exterior lights on. Just make sure that if you're going to use timer lights that come on at exactly the same time every day, that you use them year round, not just when you're on vacation. Otherwise, it can kind of give a red flag that you're not home. And think about having your lights on a home automation platform. So at ADT, we have both Control and Pulse that are our home automation platforms where you control the alarm system and you can control the lighting through the same app. There's a lot of different platforms that are like that. And that's a great way to be able to create some real customizable lighting that randomizes.
Okay, so with the app, so if you're out of town, you're even at work, and you forgot to set your lighting, you can do that with the app?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you can even create programs like a vacation mode that has lights in specific rooms designed to turn off and on several times throughout the night, making it look like somebody walked through the room, flipped the light on, walked back out, flipped the light off.
Oh yeah, that'd be a big deterrent for me. You see a light going on and off in the bathroom, you're like, oh, someone's home.
Someone's home. Exactly.
And the flickering TV one too. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that one either. So now say that you have a safe in your home. Yeah, there you go. How you read my mind.
I read your mind.
And so for somebody like me, I think, oh, I have a safe, I'm good. It's bolted to the floor, I'm good. But what do I need to know about having a safe?
Safes are a great thing when they're done properly. If they're not done properly, they are the fastest way for a burglar to get all your important stuff out of your house. because they'll
Grab
just
and
take
go.
the whole safe.
Ugh.
Yes, I have actually been to a residence where they jackhammered the safe out of the floor.
Wow.
So, obviously that was a situation where the houses were further apart from each other. Neighbors were definitely not having communication. And it just so happened that the neighbors on either side of them were also gone at the same time. So there was nobody who could really hear that jackhammering.
Wow, that's brazen.
Yeah, that's brazen. It's also very unusual. But first, we go back to that master closet thing. Everybody goes right to that master closet with their safe. That's where they want to have it installed because it tends to be convenient for them there. And they think it'll be out of the way of the kids there. But that's not always the best hiding place. Think unconventional. Kitchens, children's bedroom, places that burglars don't tend to spend a lot of time in.
Hallway closet.
No, a hallway closet, yes. Put it inside a cabinet. Don't leave it sitting out where it can be seen. So if they open that hallway closet, what have you done to conceal it beyond that so that it's not immediately visible? Have you at least put a blanket over it or put something else in front of it to make them feel like they don't want to dig through the whole closet? Bolt it to the ground. And remember that bigger and awkward is better when it comes to a safe. The more unattractive your safe is, the better it's probably going to be at securing your belongings. One of my favorite ones that's on the market right now is called Monster Under the Bed. And it is, it's a very convenient for the person using items that are in that safe because it has a keypad that you press the buttons on and it rolls the drawer out. But it's so awkwardly shaped, you couldn't easily carry it out of the house with two people. So if it's not only bolted down, but also an odd shape that makes it harder to carry, that'll help keep it in your house instead of sending it walking down the street with the burglar.
Or a really heavy safe.
Yeah. And I know this photo isn't the best example of this because you see the passport there in the lower left, but keep all your identity pieces in your security box at the bank. Don't leave them in your house.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? If they find your password, how easy is that? If your safe is here, your password's right here. You make it so easy, might as well hand them the money.
Might as well hand them the money.
So yeah, so you give, I like the Monster Under the Bed. That one's a good one. I'll have to look into that one.
It's made in Long Beach.
Right? So now as a homeowner, and if that we were somebody that were burglarized, I can't even say it. We were robbed. How would we, the word's not coming. How would we help the police in a situation like that? Is there something we can do to be proactive?
There sure is. So we talk about recovering from theft. It's proactivity is the most important piece when it comes to aiding those police officers in being able to recover your items. That starts with keeping a list of all of the serial numbers. If it's a raised serial number, you can just put down a piece of paper and rub a crayon over it like a grave rubbing, and boom, there's your serial numbers, and you can just keep them all together in a folder in your security box at the bank. Making sure that you have photo evidence of everything that you own that's of a higher ticket value. So think back to those designer handbags and shoes that we're talking about as being one of those targeted items. Yes. Take pictures of those things. Save your receipts on your big ticket items and just store them in a folder like big ticket purchases, because that proof is not only going to help with the police officers recovering those items, it's also going to help when you make your homeowner's insurance claim for the theft, because they're going to want to have proof of what the burglar stole.
Yeah, makes sense.
And check with your insurance provider and make sure your jewelry is covered under your homeowner's policy, because often you need to have a special rider for jewelry. And that's a big heartbreak when people get burglarized and they find out from their insurance company that the jewelry that was stolen is not going to be covered.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't necessarily put their jewelry in a secured place. And as you mentioned earlier, it is one of the top items that people steal. So if you do have some nice pieces, you might want to really think about taking advantage of the advice that you're giving us here today, Danielle, because that's some smart advice. So, so I'm looking at the pictures here, and it's giving me, it's giving me some ideas. I didn't think about the serial numbers. I did think about the receipts. So now working for an alarm company, you said over 4 years now.
Yeah.
What are some questions that if we're going to select an alarm company to work with, such as ADT, what questions should we be asking?
All right. So first questions come to when you're choosing an alarm company. Obviously, there's a whole lot of different services that are out there and available. There's everything from the do-it-yourself kits that you can order over the phone or walk into a store and buy, all the way to a full service company like ADT where I work. And the first thing you need to do is try to figure out which one's going to be the right fit for you. I'm often meeting with people who did the DIY option first, and now they're investing in full service because they realized how much work was going to fall back on them. If you are not very technically savvy, if you don't have a lot of time to play technician, and you don't have, and you don't have the patience to really read an instruction manual before you install something, DIY is probably not for you. I see badly installed DIY systems all the time, where the motion detector is too high or too low or upside down, or the door and window sensors are on there backwards. And I know that had they had a break-in with that DIY system, it probably wasn't going to react the way that they had expected it to.
Yeah. And I'm sure they probably weren't aware at all that they, did it wrong. They probably just thought, oh, I don't need to read the manual, I can do it. And the upside down and all the way around the corner. So now with ADT, you mentioned something about monitoring and different services. Are those extra costs or are they included with the services that ADT offers?
We, like all alarm companies, give you many different choices when it comes to that. So that's where it comes to asking all of those questions. So, is there a contract? If so, how long is it? How does it renew? Asking them what levels of service do they offer. Do they offer everything from a very basic system with a landline connection in just burglar alarm monitoring? Or, do they cover the spectrum all the way up to having an app on the phone and video surveillance?
Okay, well, that's good to know. So there's a lot of different levels that you can do. You don't have to, have all the bells and whistles, but whatever suits your needs as the client.
Absolutely. That's part of why we, in the custom home division where I work, we do a consult with a customer, and our consults typically take an hour and a half to 2 hours for us to be able to uncover all of the client's needs and to be able to customize the system to them, because there is no one size fits all when it comes to a burglar alarm. Every house is built differently. They all have a different number of windows and doors. They all have different layouts and different access points from the outside of the house. So it's important that those devices that are chosen for the house actually meet that customer's need and not their neighbor's, But some other key things to ask: find out if they're an authorized dealer or are you dealing directly with the corporate company, because that's always going to be a different experience. Do they offer some finance options, especially if you're leading up to a trip? You want to make sure that you have the most amount of money to spend on your vacation and not on the system that's going to protect your home while you're on vacation. So check to see what their options are. Find out if they own their own monitoring center. At ADT, we own all 9 of our monitoring centers, and they're all redundant, meaning that if one goes down because of a weather situation, if we need to keep monitors away from there for their safety, that we can immediately reroute calls to the other 8, and the client doesn't have a lack of service. A lot of companies out there don't own their own monitoring center. They lease space in somebody else's. So you want to know if your information is being shared with more than just your installing company. And find out what the situation is going to be when it comes to service. How many technicians do they have available to service those calls? How long is the traditional wait time? And do you pay extra for a service call, or is that included as part of what you're paying for your monitoring?
Yeah, so that leads me to my next question was, what other things should customers who have a monitoring system, what should they be asking their alarm company?
The number one thing you mentioned. The number one thing that they should be asking their alarm company is for a consult every few years. Even in our world, I'm often meeting with clients who haven't asked for a consultation in 10, 15 years, and burglary trends change. Devices are launched that can help to prevent a loss as we discover that a burglar is learning how to get in that way. For example, glass break detectors that listen for the sound of glass breaking, because we've discovered that in many cases now, that's how they're getting in, not by opening a door or window, but just by smashing glass and walking through the hole. So find out about what products are being launched by your company and what additional services they offer. And in order to find those things out, you really need to ask. Ask for your yard signs. Every alarm company gives you a free yard sign, usually at least once a year, sometimes twice a year like we do. Call in and ask them to ship it out to you or to drop one by, because a fresh yard sign says, I just had a new installation. I've got the best stuff out there. And so, you know, I'm a bad target. Remember to print your certificate of monitoring, because that gives you a discount with your insurance company. And then think a lot about adding life safety and critical loss monitoring. That is something that I don't see enough of.
So what is life safety?
So life safety and critical loss is things like monitored smoke detectors, monitored carbon monoxide detectors, water flow detectors that can tell you if there's water flowing excessively through any of the pipes in your house or through your sprinkler system. That's one of the hard things to come back from a trip to discover.
Yeah,
maybe you didn't get burglarized, but your house burned down.
Yeah, well, you're right. I wasn't even thinking like something could go wrong. And a few years back, one of my neighbors actually went out of town and they had a flood. But thankfully, somebody was nearby and they heard it, and we had spare keys and were able to get in there and take care of it. But can you imagine going on a trip and being gone for a week and the water's just over gushing, or there's a fire or anything like that happens in your house and you have no way of knowing what's going on while you're gone, and you think you did everything right?
I actually just met with a client last week who had just closed on the house, and when they came to take like the first walkthrough after closing, they discovered that sometime in the 24 hours prior to them getting the keys, a pipe had burst and flooded the house. And it's now 3 months later, and they've just finished all the mold remediation, and they're getting ready to reinstall their entire kitchen.
Oh my goodness.
And it's all because they didn't know that the water was flowing. So talk to your alarm company about that. There's devices that go underneath sinks and washing machines that'll monitor for pooling water, as well as those devices that can connect to your home's interior sprinkler system or to the water main to see if water is flowing through the pipes for an excessive length of time.
Okay, that's really good to know. And then what other types of plans can travelers make to secure their home before they're leaving? Anything they need to do prior to vacation?
This is so important. I often get an appointment on my calendar, and I go and meet with that client on like Monday. And they say to me, we're leaving town on Friday for a 3-week vacation, and we want to get the system installed before then. Is that going to be possible? And more often than not, especially during our very busy season, the answer is no, it's not. Traditionally, most alarm companies run on about a 2-week install schedule. So from the time that you decide what it is you're going to do, it's going to be a week to 2 weeks before parts are in and the technicians are coming out to actually do the installation. So I always tell people that if you're going to do any upgrades to your system, or you're considering getting a system for the first time, plan a couple of months ahead of time, because there may be many factors that need to be addressed before your installation date, like the adding of electrical outlets in specific locations so that you can add things like a Wi-Fi camera or get your alarm panel where you would like to have it located. And then do a system test 2 to 3 weeks before you leave if you have an active system, because as we get into our busiest months, which in the alarm world, that is the end of May all the way through Labor Day weekend, and sometimes a couple weekends after that, because everybody wants to get things done during the summer. They're moving into their new homes, so they're getting their alarm activated. They're going on trips, so they're doing changes to their alarm system. They're home and out of work. Yeah, they're remodeling.
All that fun stuff.
They want to get that stuff done while they're home from work and out of school, and the kids are out of school. So between all of those things, plus you add to it people who've unfortunately already been burglarized and they're coming back from vacation, so now they want a system ASAP. Plan ahead.
So if you're somebody I'm sorry to interrupt. If you're
No.
somebody that's never had an alarm system, would it take any longer than if somebody already had one before and they were upgrading or renewing? It takes longer, I would assume.
Upgrading often takes less time than a new installation does because you're often reusing parts of the system with an upgrade, but plan for both the same way. Think about it a couple of months before your trip so that you have time to make any structural changes that you might need. And also so you don't feel rushed to make a decision.
Yeah,
You know,
especially if you're going to be heading out of town, you want to have to worry, are we going to get this stuff done in time? So your advice is really good a couple of
yeah,
months ahead of time, because you do want to have things in place and also work out any bugs. If you're new at using the alarm system, you may need a little practice, right? Understanding how to use the system once you get it installed. I have to say, I'm not the most tech savvy. I might need a little time to get acclimated. Like, what do I do? How do I set the alarm? Make sure that now that you have the system, you're actually using it properly, right?
absolutely.
Have it and say, okay, I have a sign and I have my system set up, I'm good. Like, really understanding how to use it. So that's really good advice, because if you're trying to do it a week before you're going on vacation, there's probably a good chance you're not going to be doing something right.
And you're not going to have time to train other people who are going to be accessing that house either.
Oh, like a sitter or a family member.
Yeah, that's one of those common mistakes, not training the house sitter or housekeeper on how to use the alarm system properly and what to do if they accidentally trip off the alarm. Many cities actually give you a false alarm fine if the police officers are dispatched and it turns out that it was an accidental alarm. And those tickets can get real hefty. So it's always good to practice ahead of time with everybody who's going to be using the system. And, with that whole prepping to leave for vacation, checking the age of your batteries, thinking, has it been more than 5 years since I changed this battery? Because maybe I want to order some backups and get that changed out before I leave on vacation. If you have patrol that's available in your area, signing up for patrol so that they can get your officer by to meet with you and walk the property and talk about where you'd like to have mail and packages put. Spending time talking to your neighbors and letting them know that you're going to be gone and what to look for. Making sure they know to call you if they see a plumbing truck sitting in your driveway because you're not expecting that, right?
Yes.
And then right before you leave, do that final walkthrough through the house. Like I said, burglars often break in through the front door because somebody left and forgot to lock it. When I'm doing house tours with a client and going through their doors and windows to check for existing equipment, I'm opening and closing those windows, and I will tell you, in every house, I've yet to go into a single house where at least one window in the house was not locked.
Ooh.
So walk through the house and pull on all your windows and make sure that they're fully seated into the window frame and that they're locked. I love the little wood dowling rods too that pop into there to prevent windows from being slid open. Those are great. Yes. Make sure everything's locked, and then do a second walkthrough and think about it from a fire safety perspective. Have you unplugged every device that you could possibly unplug that wasn't absolutely necessary while you were gone? That's not only going to help prevent a fire, it's also going to help prevent a loss of those devices. If you had an electrical outage when you were gone and they turned the power back on and surged your house, because that happened to me and that was no fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I had to get that brand new huge TV over there because of it. It shorted out our TV and quite a few other things when they brought the power back up again. If we just had those things unplugged because we knew a storm was coming through, then we could have prevented that. If you're going on vacation, you can't run around the house and start unplugging those things. So just unplug them before you leave. You'll save a little electricity too at the same time.
Yeah, and a little peace of mind. You
exactly.
You unplugged them. You don't have to worry when you're gone as much, about what's going to happen at your home. So if you follow all these steps, you're kind of setting yourself up for success. Like we mentioned, taking the target off your back, but you're also giving yourself peace of mind to know that your house is valuable to you and everything that's in there is valuable to you. And so whether you're going to work for a few hours or you're going away for a vacation, you want to take all these steps possible to make sure that you're securing your house to the best of your ability. So this has been some great information. I thought I remember you saying that there was a story that you wanted to share about one of your customers.
Oh, this is my favorite fire story. And she's not just a customer, she's actually a really good friend of mine. And she was taking over the house that her parents had owned for many years and setting up a security system inside their home because they had both passed. And she wasn't quite ready to start going through all of their belongings and deciding what to do with everything. So she moved into the house, and then her adult son came to stay with her. They both left for work and didn't realize that they had left a candle burning on the hope chest that she had in the living room that she was using as a coffee table.
Oh, wow.
And oh, wow. Her son had properly kenneled both of the dogs before he left, and the candle started smoldering out onto the coffee table, creating a smolder fire. So a smolder fire doesn't have big flames. It's not going to trip an ionic smoke detector, which is what we are all required to have in our homes by law. It's only going to trip a photoelectric smoke detector, which is unfortunately not required by law. But that's the kind of fire that would be caught, one that would be caught by a photoelectric smoke detector is the one that takes 75% of the lives that are lost in a fire. Because most of the time when somebody dies in a fire, it's not from them burning to death, from them inhaling too much smoke and just not becoming conscious. So they're already asleep, they inhale a bunch of smoke, and they die before the fire ever becomes a full-blown fire. That was what was happening in her house at that time. So the ADT smoke detectors are photoelectric and ionic. It got triggered. We sent the signal to the monitoring center. Monitoring center called her and her son, dispatched the fire department, could not get a hold of either of them. And then their after dispatch call went to the next door neighbor, Ron, who knew them for years. And Ron is arguing on the phone with our monitoring center that the house can't be on fire. He lives right next door. He can't hear her smoke detectors going off, and he doesn't see anything. We are wasting community resources sending the fire department. So we explained that we couldn't stop a life safety dispatch, that, fire trucks were coming no matter what. And he said, well, I have a key. I'll meet you up front. So he met as he was coming out the front door, the fire department had already pulled up. And he handed them the key. They opened the front door, and they said that the top of the chest had just burst into flames. So the flames had been going for less than probably 15 to 20 seconds at that time. So they were able to quickly put them out, but the whole house was filled with really, really dark smoke. So the dogs went to the vet, but they were okay. They got treated for a little bit of smoke inhalation, and even that chest was saved. And no other items in the house were destroyed, including her dad. Her dad was part of a car club, and his car was in the garage. Is that beautiful restored car? I know. And
so not only were the dogs saved, the house was saved, the cars was saved. It was a good advice that they had a key to a neighbor. I'm listening to your story, and I'm thinking the things. So really, you saved their dogs.
I saved her dogs. That's how she told me. She called me up and said, "You saved my dogs' lives today." And I said, "What?"
Wow, you got to feel pretty great about that, right?
I still feel really great about that. That's probably one of my big whys as to why I do what I do, is that I know that I'm affecting lives by doing what I do. And I'm helping prevent loss, and I'm helping those people who do have a break-in, at least, when a burglar breaks into a house that has an alarm system and that siren starts going off, they're going to grab a couple of things and get out of there, but they're not going to stick around because they know the police are on their way. When they break into a home that doesn't have an alarm system, they know they have plenty of time inside that house before somebody comes back. So they're going to spend more time not just stealing, but also destroying, because they don't think nicely about your things in your home, and they have no problem knocking everything out of every drawer and every closet and trampling over it as they're looking for the stuff they want to take.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what the person who was burglarized feels afterwards. They feel violated. Not only did they lose their stuff, but you feel violated. And so I can hear from your voice and from the things you've shared with us today that you're really passionate about what you do, and you're really knowledgeable, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. I just wanted to pose, did we miss anything? Is there anything else that you think you want to add? Or we think we got it covered? So it sounds to me like
a lot.
We did cover a lot. So be proactive in your own security of your home. Whether you have a home monitoring system or you don't, you can take the advice of what we've shared today and walk around your house. I mean, that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around my house and kind of just take a visual of what do I see. You know, walk around the entire perimeter of my home, not just the front, and not just thinking about somebody breaking in, but we talked a lot about other ways to keep yourself and your home and your valuables safe, like the monitoring system that can tell if there's a fire. I like the lights too, like all of the little ideas and advice that you shared can be applicable to many of our audience. So I really appreciate you sharing that information. And thank you for your time today. And I just wanted to end with a couple of tips for when you actually are on vacation that a lot of people I have found from my clients they're not aware of, is that certain things to do to keep yourself safe. And one is, don't go on social media and announce to everybody where you're going, how long you're going to be gone, until you return home. Because it kind of, if somebody is looking for a target, you might be making yourself an easy target by announcing it to everybody that you're not home. Secondly is making photocopies of your important documents, especially your passport and your driver's license and ID. If for some reason they were stolen or lost, if you have a copy, it really can help expedite the process of getting those documents so you can get home. And then another thing that people maybe don't think about is Wi-Fi. So when you're out and about and you're traveling, you're not aware if the Wi-Fi that you're using is secure. So you need to take steps to make sure that you're not just using random Wi-Fi and you're putting your phone and your information out there for identity thefts and those type of people to get your info. And then lastly is you do want to update friends and family on where you are. So the event that something does happen like COVID, like a natural disaster, that your family or friends know where you are, so that can help, you know, just make sure that your family at home is a little bit more comfortable with where you are and that you're safe, you know, no freak outs. And then just do your research before you go and kind of see, is there any safety or security things that you need to be aware of, especially now with COVID. Just went on a little trip, and beforehand, you can go on the websites of the place that you're visiting, the destination, and kind of see is there any travel restrictions? Is there anything that you need to be aware of before you visit? Also check what's going on. Is there civil unrest? Is there anything that you should be aware of so you can be a little bit safer when you travel? So just some extra tips for you when you're traveling that I've had people ask me. I thought I would add that as well. So again, I want to thank you for joining me and my lovely guest, Miss Danielle Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I definitely got some nuggets out of this, so I'm sure other folks got a few good jewels out of what you had to say today. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Danielle. And thank you for watching Anna's Travel Tips, and come back next week for another episode. Thank you for watching.